Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about posture health, mental health, chiropractic care, and what you need to do to be the lively you that maybe can be a resemblance to your younger self. Now, I'm not talking about that self that, is running up the sofa and jumping off the sofa and screaming hi-ya and jumping on the trampoline, doing front flips and back flips and all types of jumps and twirls and everything. You might say, you know what, that's a little bit beyond me. And not beyond that you can't do it. It's just that you choose not to do it. There's certain things adults don't do. Now, for me, being young is a mindset. I'm going to go down the slide with my kid. I'm going to go on the swings with my kid. I'm going to go run around with my kid, play in the pool with my kid. It just makes sense. But that's as a parent. But what if you didn't have that stimulus to do these kid things? Running around, going down slides, doing swings, riding bikes. Do you do them? Well, we can look at the statistics and you won't. Because at some point, our mindset shifts to being an adult. I want to be an adult. I want to drive. I want to work. I want to travel, right? I want to do things independently. But then something happens also as we become adults. We get older. And if we're not taking care of ourselves as we grow in age, we are going to have a plethora of issues that we are not going to be proud of. So how can we be proud of our moment? How can we be proud of the direction that we're walking and we're going toward? If we need to make some changes, what would be the first step? The steps that we're going to be going on today is going to lead to the journey of a lifetime, because we can look at the future in a sense. And it's a simple future. It's maybe even common sense, but critical thinking can be out the window too nowadays. Is if you don't take action today, what would happen tomorrow? If you don't fix something that's broken today, what would happen to the thing? Will it remain broken? Will it get even worse? We talk about that today. The reality is your future can be whatever you want. It could be good. It could be riddled with problems and situations that you're not proud of. It could be filled with regret. But it doesn't have to be that. Because today we're going to be having a conversation with my guest, Dr. Scott Vatcher. He's going to be helping us understand his work and how he helps people see what they can do in their day to live a fuller and happier life. Welcome, Dr. Scott Vatcher, to Coaching in a Session. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for coming on. Today, we're going to be talking about your chiropractic and posture work. We're going to be also talking about your book, Move It or Lose It, today. And when we start to look at the work that you do and the life that people are living, they can be struggling with so many different things, especially with our new modern age. I know we talked about it before we hit record, where people can be sitting down quite a bit. They have a different type of lifestyle, maybe very sedate, and they're not as active as they once were. So we are going to be having a whole conversation on that today. Can you tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help in your own words?
Yeah, sure. My day job, I'm a chiropractor. I've been doing that for 21 years. So I've been, over the years, helped thousands of people. Everything from athletes to corporate to families. I'm actually a pediatric chiropractor as well. So I see a lot of babies. And through the process of seeing a lot of clients, I realized that, just like you said, a lot of people are sitting too much, too sedentary, and that really discourages me from getting the best results. So I wrote a book called Move It or Lose It, and that is really geared at helping people to do the self-care that they need at home. So I can only do so much in the office, and this book has then been able to have people do much more at home to help them in their health journey to look better, feel better, and perform better.
Would you say, like in your 21 years of working, like year one versus year 21, do you start to see, or are you starting to see more people coming in? Because I know I went to the chiropractor for a car accident, but I mean, I don't go to the chiropractor like every day or every week or something like that. It was just because of something happened to me and I had to go to the chiropractor. Are you starting to see more people do it they need it in their daily lives?
Well, what I'm seeing is a lot more people are doing it with a primary or secondary concern of it being actual posture, as opposed to a back pain, neck pain. People are coming in and they're saying, I know my posture is really bad. What can I do about it? So that's kind of in the way that you said it. People are coming in looking for a little bit more than the what most people traditionally think chiropractic is for, which is back pain, neck pain. So they are looking for more. And I believe then through education, they can realize that regular movement and making sure your spine is doing its job properly is very important for your overall health.
And when you say posture, is it like how like you're maybe looking down or your back is hunched or you might be leaning sideways, like that type of posture?
That's exactly right. I call it your posture pattern. And really, it's a combination of your static posture. So that's when you're sitting, you're moving, or you're lying, and your dynamic posture, which is when you're moving. Because most people don't think about posture during a movement or say during sport. And posture is just as important during movement as it is statically. So yes, all of those things. Probably the most dominant one is the one you mentioned first, is the leaning forward posture.
We start to look at this posture health for an individual. Is there a way that they can identify what they have to be looking at, for themselves to say, hey, I need to go see a chiropractor. Like I look in the mirror, my posture's all messed up because I think many people, they don't even realize that their posture is incorrect. For example, I don't like I'm sure you probably see this like phenomena is there's so many kids today looking down at their smartphones. So now they're like hunched over and they're always looking down at the ground.
Yeah, like it used to be that the average age has gone down dramatically in people that I see, not only because I'm a pediatric chiropractor, so I specialize in seeing kids, but I've seen it more and more where parents are bringing their kids in and they're realizing that when they were kids, there weren't smartphones. And so we would be doing what normal kids do, getting out, playing at the park, etc. And one study showed that there's been a dramatic decrease in broken bones in kids.
Mm.
And it's like, why would that be? And the reason why is because they're not out playing. They're not out at the park and falling off their bike and breaking their arm or their leg. They're at home on screens. And so that what has gone through the roof is repetitive strain injuries, too bad posture, too much gaming, things like that. So there's definitely been that shift towards kids. Like I always say to the parents, in the next 20 or 30 years, I believe there's going to be an epidemic of spinal problems. So when these kids that grew up on screens get around the 30 to 40 mark, it's going to be a problem.
So stick with me on this one because I'm about to go totally left field on this one. Have you ever had veal before?
Veal as in the meat?
Like the meat, veal.
Oh yeah.
So veal, I don't the reason I don't like veal is because I don't like how they make it. Veal is like it comes from a cow that really hasn't been moving a lot because they want the most tender meat possible. So what they do is they break the calf legs so the calf can't walk, and then they
I
feed
did
the
not know
calf.
that.
Yeah, it's insane. But you get the most tender meat because they don't have to build the muscle fiber and everything, and it's so soft. It falls off and it's delicious. But I mean, every time I eat it, I feel so bad. So I was like, what? I'm not a vegetarian or anything, but it's like to me, it's like we look at the aspect of that. And now we kind of look at it in the situation of now people are growing up, especially like kids, they're on their phones, they're inside, they're at the computer, they're playing video games, Xbox, PlayStation, etc., where they're not doing that movement. They're not strengthening their bones. They're not walking around. It's almost like their legs are broken and they're just like, oh, I'm stuck here. And we can look at people who are on wheelchairs. They don't have, much power in their legs. That's why they have to sometimes go to therapy after they break their leg for some time because they have to get back that muscle that they lost. We look at this phenomenon of our youth, especially because, as you said, it's going to be an epidemic of this happening in the next probably 10 to 15 years. Like we can probably see it like going crazy where people are suffering from all of these issues from chiropractic to posture, whatever it be. We have to look at the mindset too, that we can mitigate this. Yet it's almost like we see the car coming right at us and we're like, well, it's nothing we can do. It's like literally we're waiting to get hit. how can we start to, educate individuals, parents, and our youth more readily so that they can be more active?
I mean, that's a great question because we all know. You're right. Like the car's zooming at us, and we know we should just sidestep it, but we don't. And I believe that's not just a movement or postural issue. I think that's a general health issue. We all know what we should do when it comes to how much we should eat, or like if we're overweight, that we should lose weight, or if we're having these health conditions that, generally speaking, if you eat well, move well, think well, that your body's going to do what it's designed to do and get better. That's the million, billion, trillion-dollar question: is how do we get people to do it? Because I think that potentially, as I'm thinking about this now, one of the big issues is that we're very short-sighted. We're not thinking about where am I going to be 10 years from now, or 15 or 20 years from now. We're thinking, well, is this going to affect me today or tomorrow? That bigger picture, I think, is something, and I don't have the answer, but that bigger picture is probably something to look at. For myself, I see, as my parents are getting older now, wanting to take care of myself better so that I can be mentally and physically better, because I see the effects of not doing what you should do for a long, long period of time with things like physical, mental health, dementia, all of those things. I mean, without a doubt, one of the biggest ways to help prevent dementia long term is regular physical movement, making sure that you are moving your body properly and that it can move properly, which is where posture comes in.
Powerful, because we look at life in general. People, they give themselves this aspect of 65, and I'm going to retire at 65. I'll be happy at 65. 65 is the date. And many people, they dread 65 too. So they will say, I'm not going to focus on retirement. I'm not going to focus on being healthy. I'm going to worry about it when it's time to worry about it. When the best time to take action is when you're healthy, when you can do something, because then it's almost like keeping up with what you have to do. Imagine if you have a room or something, and you could be an adult or you could be a kid. Like if you think about your kid's room, it's probably a mess. But if they clean their room, you might say the only thing you have to do is make sure you don't dirty your room that bad. So when you have to clean it again, it's not going to be like hours and hours of work. Every day you pick up your laundry and you put it in the hamper. You don't just throw off your clothes and then after a week you have a week's worth of laundry or of dirty laundry on the floor. You know that this is going to be a problem later on. Let me put it to where it needs to be. So you compartmentalize everything that is like, all right, this goes here, this belongs here. But when it comes to our well-being, our posture, it's like, well, it's okay if I'm hunched over like this playing a video game for 8 hours a day because I'm only doing it temporarily. But that 8 hour compounds for a week, a month, a year, a lifetime, maybe. And then you realize, like, whoa, I am so far gone. I have to do all of this backtracking work to get to where, or to get back to where I was. And sometimes you might not be able to get back to exactly where you are, but you might be able to get close. I know there's people who have like a stroke or something like that. They might get full mobility, but there might be maybe a limp. There could be something going on where they're not truly who they were. That can also create the mindset of, well, if I know I can't be who I was, why even bother? Because I like that person better. So many people just say, you know what? Since I can't walk like I used to, since I can't stand up like I used to, why even put in the effort to try?
Yeah, it's what I call the downward spiral of health. When one thing leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next, and eventually you don't even realize, and you look backwards and you go, oh my God. And for me in practice, the thing that I see people say the most, and I'm talking like not the age group is phenomenally, it's actually kind of laughable, really. I will have some clients come in and they're in their late 20s. And they're like, I have this and this going on. Oh, I think it's just because I'm getting old. It's the biggest excuse I hear. And I think it is a very disempowering excuse. Oh, I just think I'm getting old. Because when people say that, basically what they're saying is, I don't think there's anything I can do about it. And that downward spiral of health that I mentioned can be turned around, because with small, regular intervals of something, you can have a dramatic difference. But I think, again, it comes back to being short-sighted. People want something to change today, right? Oh, I've let my health go and I have high blood sugar and I'm 20 kilos or 50 pounds overweight and I can't run the length of myself. And, the list goes on. And they're like, okay, I'm motivated to change. And 3 days in, they're sore. And then they're like, this isn't working. And so I think we really need to take that step back and go, okay, for any sort of health change, we should really be looking at 100 days. Okay, I'm going to do this for 100 days and be very committed to that process for that long, because you will see change in that length of period of time. But when we're looking at, people's mindset of a day or a week and everything should be good, when, like you said, it could have been weeks, months, or years of sitting in that video game for 8 hours a day, and you don't even realize how bad you've gotten.
Yeah. Also, the aspect of the pain that they have to go through to, get to that 100-day mark, because it's easy to, go to the gym or to go to a chiropractor or the doctor for the first week. Like, okay, like this is new. Like, it feels good. It's like new. Like people love new. Like a new car, new phone. It feels good, but then eventually it becomes something that you're like, phone, like I don't care. If you are going to the doctor, maybe not the dentist because I don't know about those, but you are going to be like, all right, I feel good. This is cool. I'm learning a lot. The care was pretty good, but sometimes it could be riddled with pain. After my car accident, it's like 2010. This is a long time ago. I went to the chiropractor. And it was a whole process of, realigning the spine, the neck and everything. And then also they had to do like therapy. And it's like also like a massage part where they're like trying to move things like where it needs to be. And let me tell you, oh my God, I was in the worst pain of my life, or probably the second worst pain, but it did not feel good. When someone has to go through that pain, for me at the time, I was 20, 22, 23 or something like that. I was young. I had my whole life ahead, in my mind at the time. I'm like, I can't be like this forever. But someone who is later on in life, 50, 60, or whatever, for them to go through that pain, it's almost like, you can't teach a old dog new tricks, because they already have this, mentality of, I have already gone so far. They are going to be the first people to say, you know what, what's the point? Why even bother? Why do I have to go through this pain? Why even force myself to get to this 100-day mark? I believe it is easier for the younger mindsets to understand 100 days because they have their whole life ahead of them. But at some point, when you get older, or, just from speaking with people who are older, 100 days is almost a lifetime for them, because now they have more years behind them and then in front of them. And for them to feel like they're wasting 100 days can be something that they're not willing to invest in. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, because I guess I'm closer to the other side of that, as in aging and realizing how short life is. I read a book not that long ago called 4,000 Weeks.
Mm.
And can you think, what is 4,000 weeks? How long is that? It's a lifetime. So it's a different way to think about it, right? Most people will think in years, 80 years, kind of around the average lifespan. But when you break it down into weeks, it's 4,000 weeks. And you know how fast a week goes. To me, the opposite is true as you get older, where 100 days, my dad told me years ago, he said, the older I get, the faster time goes. And it was around that idea still of, when there's more years behind you than in front of you, time seems to speed up. So the 100 days that we talked about to give things a proper go to start to see some real results will go in the blink of an eye. And there's an old saying that says, time flies when you're having fun. I don't believe that's true. I think you shorten that to time flies, no matter what. So you may as well be doing something that's productive and giving yourself a better life, because 100 days from now is 100 days from now. Do you want to look back on that 100 days and say, wow, I feel better, I look better, I'm healthier? Or 100 days later and say, I did nothing and I feel worse and nothing's going to change unless I do something. Nathaniel Branden, in his book, The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, says, no one is coming to save you. And that's one quote that sticks with me all the time. And that's in anything to do with life, but particularly health. You can't blame anyone else but yourself. You can't blame your doctor. You can't blame your parents. Generally speaking, you can't blame your genetics. There are a few exceptions to that, but mostly there's no one to blame but you for where you are right now. And that can be disempowering, but it can also be very empowering because when you know it's up to you, that's the buck stops here. It's my choice and only my choice. Nobody can go and do that walk. Nobody can do those stretches but me. And so it can be a very empowering process as well, I believe, instead of disempowering at any age. You know, my oldest client at my practice right now is 96. And my youngest at the moment is 17 days old. I see the vast span of life, and there can be a spark at any age. Because my oldest client, man, she's a little whippersnapper. She's amazing, right? And you can imagine at 96, there's going to be some health issues. There's going to be some posture problems. There's a lot going on at that age, but she still has that will to want to feel better and be able to pick up her grandkids. So it comes back to that idea of what is your why? Because as you get older, your why definitely changes. When you're young, it's more about stuff. I want to, like I think you said earlier, I'll be happy when this, that, and the other, when I get that house, when I get that car. And as you get older, for most people, I believe your why changes. And it's not as much about stuff, and it's more about experience and relationships. And for me, like one of my big whys is mountain biking. I love getting out on that mountain bike. There's no feeling like it. It is a combination of everything that I love. And I want to be able to keep doing that. One of my mates who mountain bikes with me is 73, and I can barely keep up with him. He's like an inspiration to me to go, wow, if I can be still doing that at 73 or 75, flying down these hills with just, you have to be in that meditative zone state when you're on a mountain bike, because 1 second and you're off. That is my why to continue. And I work on my posture because posture influences balance. Balance as we get older is one of the biggest problems, because what does a loss of balance do? Leads to a fall. What does a fall do? Leads to a broken bone. What does a broken bone do? Leads to being stuck in bed. And there's an old saying that says, you don't stop moving when you get old. You get old when you stop moving, right? And it's very true. The science proves it. I've got a ton of research inside my book. I've written it in a fun way that makes it easy to digest, but there's a ton of research in there that basically proves that you can be old when you're young, or you can be young when you're old. And it all comes down to moving the body. Movement and exercise is the most important thing. In my mind, and through my research, it's even more important than diet. Continuously moving the body is the absolute key to longevity and living a great life, mentally, physically, socially, everything.
We go back to, you could see your parents growing older, and even my parents, I can see them growing older. And growing up, my dad was a big guy. He worked in construction, like huge muscles, like really great in shape. And then when he stopped working construction, you can see his drive to go to the gym started to go down, and then his health started to go down. Eventually, he had all of these problems come up. And then, now it's like almost like, does he want to push anymore? Or does he want to give up? And, fortunately for him, he has grandchildren. So that was his purpose, his why now, like saying, okay, if I want to be able to see them, graduate high school, I need to get my act together. And this was something that he started to invigorate. Now he started to work out again, started to do everything. But guess what? The damage has already been done. He is fighting an uphill battle right now, where if he gave himself the mindset when he was younger, when he was in shape, let me maintain this, let me sustain it. Let me look at what I have to do, re-educate myself on some things that I might have learned that might have been bad. Let me fix the things that are broken. It's easy for children to look at their parents to see what is wrong and then start to say, okay, I need to fix this for my life so I don't have to go through it. But then even when I go to the gym, I see people who are 70, 80, even 90 in the gym, and they're killing it. And I'm like, whoa, tell me your secret. And the secret is exactly what you just said. Like, stay active, move, don't be still. It's easy to give yourself this this mindset of retirement. When I retire, I'm going to sit on my porch and I'm just going to rock in my rocking chair and I'm just going to watch the sunset rise and fall and rise and fall. And before you know it, the last weeks of your life are going to be gone where you're not paying attention. And I had to even present it to my father in the way of, you only have a certain amount of times left with your grandkids. How many interactions is that going to be? And currently we live apart. He lives in Connecticut. We live in Texas. And I just said, in years, you're 60 now. Let's say you live till, 90. We did the math and we say, okay, we're going to come up 2 times a year. This is how many times you have left. And it's a very low number. It's not thousands, it's only in the hundreds. So he's like, whoa, this perspective was a wake up call for him. So now every single time we're there, he appreciates every second of that. He's like, just eats it up. He's 100% present, but then he's also 100% active. He's just not like, well, I'm gonna take it easy. He's like doing push-ups. He's going on his bike. He's doing everything that he needs to do. But it wasn't until he had that drive. And sometimes people don't have that drive. We can have the understanding that we have to do something, but if they don't have that drive to do it, it's going to be that hard concept of, we all want a better life, but not everyone's willing to work to get that better life. We should be working to that better life, right? It just makes sense. But again, people make mistakes, if you want to call it that, or people just don't take action and then they wonder why they're in the situation that they are. And I think of the aspect of getting older. Osteoporosis kicks in because you're not like doing what you need to do. Like, there's a whole slew of issues. And your book is perfectly titled for this type of mindset: move it or lose it. What is to lose, though, right? Your lifestyle, your mobility, or everything in between. What got you to write this book, and how has this book impacted individuals' lives?
Yeah, I mean, you summarized it quite well. The book was written because it was written about, I'm going to say 5 years ago. So I was in practice for 15 years, and I saw there was a real gap in what I could do for my clients while they were there, but then what they could do for themselves at home, right? So, there's a definite combination of the two that I'll say is where the magic happens, because the movements that you can do yourself through stretching and exercise, etc., are what I call the macro movements. And then the adjustments that I perform on people are the micro movements. So if you've got one spinal segment that's stuck, it may not be released unless somebody like a professional like myself releases that out. But the macro movements are what you can do on your own. And so I found there was a real gap, and I would give a person an exercise here or there, and they may or may not do it, but that's 1 or 2 exercises. Inside the book, I have over 80 different exercises, and they're all geared at postural performance. So you mentioned a long time ago, how can somebody know they've got bad posture? So I go through that in the book as well, with just taking 2 photographs and then looking at them. So there's a process inside the book that they can look at that. And then there's what we call a 30-day challenge. Again, back to, I said 100 days is a real great time frame. But inside the book, I did a 30-day challenge. You can definitely see some change in 30 days. So if you're interested in that, then check that out so that you can do that 30-day challenge and do the pre and post photos yourself. And you can even send me the photos if you want to see those changes. But back to the book, again, it was a process that I wanted to expand outside my practice as well. So for somebody who might live in Texas or Connecticut or, around the world. And I've broken the book up into 3 different sections. Section 1 is really around how can posture and movement help you. So there's chapters on physical health, mental health, how sitting or standing, the debate on that, etc. The middle part of the book is what you talked about, which is sort of the why section, because I realize that really anything to do with health, if you don't have that motivation side, or motivation is probably not even the right word because that only lasts. If you don't have that why, that big picture, you're just not going to stick with it. And so the middle part of the book is all about that. It's a bit of a self-exploration. So there's a lot of questions that you answer yourself, and it takes you through a process to get you ready to then start the program, which is the last third of the book, where all the movement patterns are and the different exercise routines. And they're on average about a 10 to 15 minute routine. So if you can commit to that perfect world every day, so think about it like brushing your teeth. I'm going to brush my teeth every day. I mean, I've never met anyone who doesn't. There was one guy one time about 10 years ago, because I use that brushing your teeth example because everyone brushes their teeth except for this one guy. He didn't brush his teeth. And I'm like, oh, that's not going to work for you, is it? So, but if you don't even brush your teeth, you probably don't have health on your list of priorities at all. Taking you through that process of the book takes you from like, okay, why is it healthy for me? What is my why? And then what to do about it.
When I was younger, I was definitely not a good brusher. I was probably like the worst brusher in the world. Like if you haven't met one before, like my younger self, that was the guy. Because I was a total mess. I was like eating candy. I would brush my teeth, but it was just like whenever I just thought about it, I was so active. Riding my bike, hanging out with kids in the neighborhood, playing with dirt, catching ants, catching earthworms. I was a busy guy. Coming in and having to brush my teeth, I was like, nah, like that right there, I'm not going to worry about it. Until started to get cavities, starting to get all these problems. I'm like, Jesus, the only thing I have to do is brush my teeth. And I'm like, easy enough. So now I'm instilling that into my family. Like, hey, we got to brush our teeth morning and afternoon and even after lunch. So like we developed that, but it wasn't until, like I said, like I went through the bad moments and, I did the wrong thing. Sometimes we learn from our mistakes. Sometimes we can learn from other people's mistakes, and we can begin to take action from there. One of the things that you talked about in your first part of the book was that, posture can help with mental health. How is posture and mental health linked together?
Well, I mean, the links are undeniable when it comes to mental health. By the way, I wanted to allude to something earlier around exercise. So before I forget, do you know what the best exercise in the world is?
Walking.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Although I get what you say. The best exercise in the world is the one you're going to do.
Mm.
And so for people listening here, if they're like, well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do this, it's find something you love and do it.
Mm.
Just keep the body moving. I mean, that is literally easiest step one. Just do something you love to do, because if you love to do it, you're going to just keep doing it. For me, like I said, mountain biking is just something that when we get off this call, I'm heading out. It's a beautiful morning here in Australia, and I'm out of here riding my bike this morning, and I can't wait to do it. So make sure that you just find something that you love to do. I just wanted to add that before I forgot.
And then to look at the posture and mental health and like to get into that conversation, because I think that's going to be a good last point to end on.
Sure. So there's some big fancy words I'm going to use, but I'll describe them. So there is something called a psychosomatic response, and that's where the mind affects the body. And it's been shown that the opposite is also true. There's also a somatopsychic response, and that is how the body affects the mind. And it's been shown scientifically that if you force yourself into a bad posture and stay there, that you start to have unhealthy thoughts. And that if you force yourself into a better posture, that you start to have better thoughts. And when you have better physicality, you just run better, and that affects your mental health in such a big way. It's probably one of the biggest things I see in practice. People don't come in because they're in pain, believe it or not. They come in because that pain is preventing them from doing something they love, right? So when you dig just a little bit deeper, because everyone says that, it's like, okay, why are you here today? Because my back hurts. Okay, well, if your back hurts, then what is that affecting? What can you not do because of that? Oh, well, I can't work. I can't play golf. I can't mountain bike. I can't pick up the kids. I can't, whatever the case might be. And instantly you can see the change in people's mental state when they switch gears from pain to what it's affecting. I mean, there's a bunch of science. It's all inside the book. I've got a whole chapter on mental health, but that's the big picture of no doubt about it. If you move your body, you feel better, not just physically, but absolutely mentally. There's one style, I'll list one study that showed that, back to what you said, best exercise being walking, that going for a walk, a strenuous walk, like not even a high level walk, just a somewhat strenuous walk, heart rate slightly raised, is as effective as the top two antidepressants in fighting depression. In a state of when mental health is at its worst, we'll say in like a depression, anxiety type state, it has a dramatic impact on that. But that impact can continue for somebody who actually has no depression or anxiety, but just wants more, wants better, right? So that continuum is all the way from lowest of lows to highest of highs. And wherever you start, it will make a difference. And interestingly, I want to mention this before we wrap up, is that if somebody's listening now and they're like, you were saying earlier, it's just too hard of a hill to climb. My God, for me to go from where I am now to whatever that pinnacle of where I want to be is, Gandhi said it, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And interestingly enough, the health benefits are way higher in the very beginning. So if you are doing nothing, if you're listening here and you just sit on the couch or in that rocking chair all day and you literally do nothing, then getting up and taking a tiny walk has such a huge impact on your health. So get this. There's a study where they said if you stand for 1 extra hour during the day, so you don't even do exercise, you just stand up for an hour that you were sitting down, you will burn as many calories in a year as running 6 to 7 marathons. So stand up for an hour a day, and over a year's period of time, you will have done the equivalent of burning calories of 6 to 7 marathons. That is insane when you think about it. So just start small. If this is the kick up the butt you need to just do something, just start. Don't think about too far into the future. 100 days, I'm gonna do a 5-minute walk for 100 days. Just do that. And then obviously, as you get better, you'll probably want to do more. And of course, you will end up getting more health benefits when you do more, but don't go too far. Just do something. Move it or lose it.
Beautifully said. I know during the pandemic, there was a lot of people buying the stand-up desk that go real tall and they can stand up and they can do their work there. It's already something that people are doing, but then it's undeniable that sitting is more comfortable to the body and the mind. It's like, well, I'm conserving energy because I'm just sitting. I'm not really doing anything. I'm working. I'm moving my hands. And that's the minimum. But we have to challenge ourselves to do a little bit more every single day. It doesn't have to be today I'm going to stand 1 hour. Maybe you start 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? We build our endurance up. And then before you know it, maybe you're standing that whole 8-hour shift at work. If you can work from home and you just can do the whole 8 hours. And then when you're ready to go, after your work day, you don't feel so tired, or maybe even the better word would be structured to be sitting, because we are now trained to sit for 8 hours. So then when we get off work, well, the most common sense thing to do in my mind is I need to sit for at least 8 hours because I just did it for work. Why can't I do it for myself? So you sit in front of the sofa, you sit at dinner table, you sit down in a restaurant. This is what we naturally tend to do, but we don't pay attention to those little cues that happen almost in a hidden way. But when it comes to us changing our life and paying attention to it, sometimes we need someone to help us see that. I like to think of it as blind spots. We all have blind spots, but not everyone can see it. You might see that something is not working, but it might not be that bad right now. So you might say, yeah, like it's just a small pain. Maybe you got an elbow pain or something. You got a back pain, neck pain, right? It's small. It's manageable. Maybe you could take a Tylenol and you forget about it. But to heal the root cause, how to get back to your best health rather than just a health that's temporary, is and should be our goal. And if you are a person that is able and willing to go on that journey, as you said, a step at a time, right? It can be a journey to that 100 days or to that lifetime. You have to be that person that's willing to take that first step and then the step after that and not giving up. It is easy to give up. It is easy to throw in the towel and say, you know what, enough's enough. But we do have to continue to educate ourselves to learn that life is not only about this moment, it's, every single day. And we're going to look at even the days in our future when things are not going good. And we're going to dream of when we were younger and we can run and we can jump and we can do cartwheels. When was the last time you did a cartwheel? I can't even remember. But this is
I don't
something
think I've ever been able to.
this is something that we have to look at. And, our conversation is definitely going to be an awakening, maybe even an epiphany for people to say, I can take action today. So I do want to thank you for, sharing all of this insight, talking about your book. But before we go, can you please give us some final words and then tell the audience where they can find you?
Sure. I think I summed it up already quite well. So I'll just say it again in that just do something. Just do something. That's it. Because nothing changes if nothing changes, right? And if you look back on your life, I mean, they've written books about this now where they've gone to old age homes and talked to people on their deathbeds. And the biggest regret in almost everyone's life, it's across the board, it's different countries, everywhere around the world. The biggest regrets are the things you didn't do, not the things that you did and you failed at. It's all about just taking that first step. I think I love the title of my book, Just Move It or Lose It. Just do it. Nike had a good one too. Just do it. If you are listening to this and you know who you are and you need to do something, just do something small. Just take that first step. And I guess you can reach me. I have I'll share the link with you if you put in the show notes or something. It's just a quick questionnaire. How bad is your posture? So if you want to just see a little bit closer, I think it's 15 questions, takes about 2.5 minutes to complete. And then I send you some results based on your answers about what you can start doing to create changes in your life. And that's probably going to be the best way, because then through that, I'll have your contact details, or look me up on any socials and stuff, Dr. Scott Vatcher.
Perfect. And I'll make it easy for everyone. The links will be in the description box below. Please send me that link for the questionnaire, and so they can go through that process, because you might not even know what is wrong with you until someone says, hey, just to let you know, you got a flat tire or you got a limp, right? Sometimes we cover it up so well, and we are so busy in our day-to-day lives that we can forget to pay attention until we can't even force ourselves to take that step or to do an action. We don't have to wait until we break down and we are struggling to make it through the day. We can do the small steps, as you said, to a better health, better body, better mind. And that posture is going to help us walk in a prominent way. I want to use the word prominent, where you can be that figure just walking with authority, not the person looking down, because there also has been studies looking down has a negative effect on your mood. You're more depressed if you're looking down more. But if you look up, look at the sky, look at the sun, look at people, their smiles, what's going on in the moment, cherish it. And from there, you're going to start to see that life can be filled with so much more abundance. And we just have to step into that. So I want to thank you so much, Scott, for coming on, helping us understand about your work and talking about your work and just giving us a wealth of information today. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in to that interview of my guest, Dr. Scott Vatcher. Again, we had a great conversation, and I just love speaking with people who are real. I love speaking with people who have young, kindred souls, just the aspect of being hungry for betterment. You can tell when you speak to someone. You can speak to someone who doesn't have much going for them, and you can see that the conversation is kind of like, yeah, the conversation is the conversation. But when you truly have a good conversation, and this is, I think, where podcasting is so powerful, is that you can truly get to understand a person so much quicker than if you were just next door neighbors, because I probably talk to my guests sometimes more than some of my neighbors that are around me. And it's not that they're bad neighbors, it's just that everyone has their own personality. What is their reason for wanting to get together? the aspect for community can sometimes fade away. And it's not that I'm not cordial with the neighbors. I talk to the neighbors. If I see them, I wave. They're more than welcome to come over, ask for any help. If they need help, if they need tools, they can come over. They know this. The mindset is we're going to stay in our lane. But the lane that many people are going down is a lane for retirement, a lane for, getting old, a lane for maybe being in a wheelchair or needing a walker. And I'm not saying that at some point we won't need those apparatuses. We can prevent most of the things. Like when I go to the gym, I don't see like the people who are 80, 90 years old in the gym walking around with canes and stuff like that. Now they might be walking a little bit more meticulously, and they might be making sure that they don't slip on the wet floor, because my gym, for some reason, they don't put any wet floor signs. So sometimes I say, you know what, this is a lawsuit, so I'm going to pretend to fall and I'm going to sue them. But then I said, no, that is not me. I don't need to fall and get hurt and pretend to be injured and stuff like that and cause all these problems. Like that is going to cause more problems in my life. But then I say to myself, what if someone unwillingly falls and gets hurt, especially someone who's older? Scott even said it, if you get hurt, you break a bone or something like that, and you're going to be less active. That is going to be a detriment to how long you're going to be able to remain walking, remain active, remain around, and being present with your loved ones. We look at, my family for a second, and I think this is a great, segue, to our closing, is my great grandmother. She passed away when she was 99. Her mother passed away when she was 103. She started to suffer from Alzheimer's in her 80s. My grandmother, she's starting to suffer from Alzheimer's in her 70s. We can look at kind of how things are getting worse quicker. It's all linked to maybe posture, maybe not taking action, being active. There are many things that we can look at for the cause and the effect to why people are going down and having a decline sooner rather than later. It could be society. It could be cell phones. It can be the foods that we eat. But generally, it comes down to mindset. It comes down to the mental game. Are you prepared? Do you give yourself a purpose, a why? Because at some point, we look at taking it easy. Wouldn't it be nice to go on the beach? Wouldn't it be nice to not have to worry about anything? But yet that keeps you alive. That keeps you young. The worry, the stress, the anxiety, maybe. And I'm not saying that you want that every single day. And there's certain things that you want anxiety and stress for, and there's certain things you don't want it for. We have that stress there for a reason. It gives us purpose. It gives us a reason to live. Do you ever realize, like when you get hungry, your brain is like sending you cues and saying, hey, you're hungry, and then your stomach might growl like, like I'm hungry. That's a problem. That is not a problem. That's a problem. You're hungry. You need food. You need nutrition. The brain is saying that you have a problem. It's giving you the cues. It's giving you the signs. But sometimes the brain, the body, life, they're going to be slow to give you the signs. And it's not until it's 100% broken, or it's like, again, creaking and it's literally about a breakdown, do we pay attention or do we notice? Because our life can be so busy. But today can be an opportunity for us to slow down, for us to be paying attention to each of our steps. And if you're walking right now, I want you to pay attention. You could be in the gym maybe. If you're driving, do it when you get out of the car, because you're not going to be driving forever. Just, make a mental note of this, that when you walk, I want you to pay attention to your first step. And if you have been driving for a long time that you forgot, your first step is going to feel numb, number one. So you're going to say, whoa, my legs don't have that much power. But then as you take the next step, you start to get acclimated again. You start to take, more powerful steps. They become less shaky. They become more secure. And it's very similar to how a child is learning how to walk. Shaky in the beginning, needing help and assistance. And then before you know it, they're running around. You have to make sure, if you're a parent, you have to catch them before they run into the street. So you always have to be healthy. But then if you're a parent, when your child no longer needs you, what do? Do you say that my job is done? And then you just kind of let your health deteriorate, and that happens so readily. It's almost like, it was meant to be, when in reality, that parent should keep on doing what they have always been doing, remaining active, moving it. But then that kid finally grows up, they have their own family, now you have grandkids, and guess what mindset you have now? I need to run after my grandkids. When the reality was, you could have always been ready for them. You could have always been ready for your grandbabies. But at some point, you decided to let off the gas, take it easy. And I'm not saying that you can't have easy days and easy moments in your life, days when you relax. We give ourselves the ambition, the effort, the journey. As Scott said, he's going to go mountain biking right now. He's probably on the trails as we speak. But that right there is powerful. It's not only about sitting. It's not only about talking. It's not only about dreaming. It's about doing. So if you are ready to be a doer, if you're ready to take the steps, if you're ready to get back your posture, your mental health, your overall well-being, check out the links in the description box below. Begin the process. Join in on the questionnaire. From there, you're going to get a wealth of information that's going to help you become the person that is more ready to take action when they need to and when they want to. Because we might have a lofty goal for the future, but if we don't have the energy, if we don't have the mindset and the willingness to get there, we won't. If we give ourselves intention, that we're not only focused on the outside pain that we feel, the outside discomfort that we feel, we start to look at the deeper, our true purpose, our true why, and we say, this is what I want in life. So determine what that is and then commit to that today. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.